Okay, so Cryptid Court. Every week we use a generator to generate 3 random cryptids. We then make a poll on YouTube and you can vote as to which cryptid you want us to discuss and debate. And the way it works is one person will take the position of for its existence and the other person will take the opposite and say that it does not exist. And this week, the winner in the poll was, I hope I pronounced this right, Lukwata? That sound good?
I think it's more like Lukwata. It doesn't.
Lukwata,
I don't know,
okay.
whatever.
The Lukwata, which is or was maybe a lake monster reported from Lake Victoria. So I'll just say 4 then, since you're the biologist and you've taken an oath.
An oath? Okay.
You did take an oath, did you? Okay, so
I don't think I took an oath.
yeah, so this is a lake monster from Lake Victoria, as I said. So Lake Victoria is on the African continent, lies between Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. It's a very big lake. I think it's like the second biggest freshwater lake by volume. Huge lake. It's called Lake Victoria because it was, quote, discovered in the 1850s by the British, and they decided to name it after their Queen Victoria. And before that, no one in the area noticed the giant lake that was there, I guess. So what is this monster? Now, there's a variety of descriptions, but most of them seem to be reptilian. So some kind of a large reptile, possibly a very big snake, or kind of a serpent creature anyway. Why is it called Lukwata? Is it Lukwata? Lukwata?
Yeah, more like Lukwata.
Lukwata. It's not entirely known. A lot of the investigation was done by Bernard Heuvelman, who was pretty much the father of cryptozoology. He, I think he coined the term in the 1950s. He wrote a book, In Search of Unknown Animals. He was a Belgian-French zoologist. So a lot of the sightings and info come from work that he did. He tried to figure out the etymology, why it was called this. There are some kind of weird explanations, like it was just someone trying to say an English look at water, which he thinks is he thought was ridiculous and probably not true. Apparently, the Lu part could signify giant in Ganda, although it could just be a generic term for like monstrous animal. You're smiling. Have I said something wrong?
No.
Okay. Anyway, so the sightings of this creature began in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. Not so many in recent times. So if it did exist, which I'm arguing it did, it may be dead now. So R.I.P. I guess. So a lot of these sightings, I guess the records come from the British who, I don't know, were interviewed by Mr. Heuvelman. Some of the earlier sightings aren't really sightings. They're just that people have heard about a large creature that some of the locals talk about and are somewhat fearful of. Though there are some written accounts. So apparently, I'll just go for the most famous one and then you can jump in and say what you want to say. But an English diplomat, Sir Clement Lloyd Hill, apparently was on a steamboat going over Lake Victoria when he had a sighting of the creature, which was 20 to 30 feet long, huge giant head, followed the boat. There's different accounts, but in one of them, it tried to attack, it tried to pull someone off the boat before swimming away. But yeah, he that's probably one of the more famous ones. There's a few more sightings. I don't know. Do you want to jump in and say anything? I've been talking a lot.
Are you just going to go over all the sightings?
No, I'm just pointing them out to say, people seem to have seen something.
Yeah, so a lot of the accounts are from people who other people have said were reliable and wouldn't make something up just for sensationalism.
Yeah,
so
that was Hill's account, actually.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe Lukwata is just something like, obviously the people have a myth. It's a mythological creature in their religion. Whatever, it's a folktale. And so when they see something big on the lake, no matter what it is or what it looks like, they'll say, oh, it's a Lukwata. It's just a handy explanation for something weird happening on the lake. So I'm going to say that there isn't a creature Lukwata. It's just sometimes there are big snakes, sometimes there are big fish. There are just various big things or interesting animals in there swimming around. And every sighting is a different one of those animals or something else, like just random. And it's not actually a cryptid. There's nothing to be found because it's just a handy explanation. That thing was a Lukwata.
Let me push back on that point a bit and ask them, why is there no more recent sightings? Why is it there was like a time period where there was a bunch of sightings and then it stopped? If it's just any big thing on the lake.
Maybe people got less superstitious and they learned more about science and they see animals and now they say what they are.
So before they were seeing the animal, but they didn't know what kind of animal it was?
Yeah, maybe. Or they just immediately, their mind jumped to Lukwata and they saw what they wanted to see. Or in the case of the British people, they don't have this myth. So they're like, oh, what's that thing? They ask a local person. The local person says, oh, you must have seen a Lukwata, because it's their myth. Versus now, people have studied it, so.
In some cases, but some are first-hand accounts. If I could go, I want to talk about one more sighting really quick. This is from Major A.J. Ward of the King's African Rifles. So, this account is actually from his wife. So both of them apparently saw a 20 to 30 foot long humped animal on the shore that swam into the lake. I have a direct quote, but it's a bit long. I'll just read it really quickly. This is what the wife of the major said. As my husband and I approached the pier of the small jetty, I saw a bizarre object coming out of the papyrus swamp at the very edge of the water, and moving away at a brisk pace with vertical movement. I described it previously. It appeared to have a head like a snake and appeared black. It seemed to be very long and must have been extremely wide. I would say, roughly speaking, thickness must have been that of an average thigh, perhaps 2 thighs pressed together. It moved with rapidity and could be partly in and partly out of the water at the same time. It made straight for the center of the lake. I think must have been resting among the papyri when we disturbed it.
Okay, so why couldn't that just be a snake?
Well, maybe it is a kind of snake, but it wouldn't be a known snake if their description is accurate.
It couldn't be a snake that we already know about? Why?
Well, first of all, it's too big. And second of all, they said it swam with a bit of it. Where does it say? It moved rapidly and could be partly in and partly out of the water at the same time. Doesn't it sound like it's undulating up and down?
Well, because the on the cryptozoology fandom thing about Lukwata, it says several explanations. Which story is this by? Who is this by?
It doesn't give the name of the wife. It was Major A.J. Ward. Wait.
Oh.
Director of wife 1960.
Well,
no, T. Coxon's wife. Sorry.
Anyway, some of the explanations have been African rock pythons, African soft-shell turtles, and a giant catfish. So it could have been a giant catfish.
Okay, but how can it be a catfish if it's seen resting on the shore?
This thing, for example, like I said, people see what they want to see or what they're expecting to see. The Wikipedia page also says the description could have been subconsciously influenced by accounts of the lake monster. People have already heard about it. They've heard about it from the locals. They've heard about it from the accounts written by the British people of the area. And then they see something and they go, oh my gosh, is it the thing? And then they look for the evidence that supports that.
I mean, I guess, but I don't see why then it would stop all of a sudden. Like if you look at that phenomena around like anywhere else, it persists to like modern day.
Well, maybe people just got tired of it. I don't know. Have there really been no sightings?
A lot less. There apparently, I don't know how accurate this is, but I read somewhere that after a new dam was built, there was a couple of new sightings, possibly 2014. All I'm saying is...
Well, maybe you can explain it by all the big animals that were previously... maybe you could just say that all the big animals that were previously living in the lake they can't survive anymore or something happened to them, like, or they're just less frequent. The pythons, the big catfish aren't getting as big anymore. Anything. Like, there could be a lot of explanations besides, oh, we don't see it now and we did see it then, so it must have been real then.
But picture this, right? So at this time we have new or newish people moving to these areas and discovering them, in quotation marks. And I presume, this is a time where they're increasing probably industrialization, and hunting is a big thing, and habitat destruction to make way for countless things. If a large creature did live in the area, all of these things would be like, these are like top of the list things that can lead to extinction, like habitat loss or loss of a prey species or less of a prey species. So I'm just wondering if it's possible that maybe there was another kind of, let's just say snake, but not the Central African rock python, maybe something even larger, darker in color, that lived around the lake, that on some occasions could be a little bit aggressive, probably not very often, and that in the late 1800s to early 1900s, maybe a handful of the last few, or maybe the last one in the area, was spotted a few times, and that maybe the locals are more aware of it because, for generations they knew they knew somewhat of this creature, but, it went extinct. It wasn't able to reproduce. It wasn't able to survive.
Yeah, maybe. Or all that habitat change and other development made the big rock pythons, the big catfish, and the other things in the lake go away.
But we still have those animals around there. Like, we still have rock pythons and catfish, but we don't have the sightings.
Maybe they weren't getting as big.
Maybe. I don't know. I think I've said everything I have to say on it. Do you have any final statements, closing arguments?
Yeah, I guess I've said everything I have to say. I just think that people were looking for something that they'd heard about, and maybe if they weren't sure what it was, they asked the locals to. They said, "Oh, I saw this thing in the water, and it did such and such a thing, and it looked like this." And the local said it's a Lukwata because it fit into their myth. And so a lot of different sightings were conflated into one creature, and either a decrease in superstition, an increase in learning biology, or just more development leading to the animals not getting as big. They all came together to make these creatures' sightings less common. That's what I'll say.
All right.
But who knows? In the comments, please say who won.
Yeah. I'll take a little bit of what you're saying. I'll say, yeah, that might be part of it, but I think there's another part. But yeah, that's enough of that.
So yes, please tell us who convinced you, one way or the other.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching the Cryptid Court section of the podcast. If you'd like to hear us talk more about cryptids, or species we want to bring back from extinction, or news about why orcas are attacking ships, or why gorillas are so good at overcoming trauma, and many other things, then you can download an MP3 of the full episode from the description, or you can click a link and watch the full episode right here on YouTube. By the way, we're going from one podcast a week to one every 2 weeks, just so I have more time to work on the regular videos. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.